Glenn Wilson at smafaq.com. Latest COVID-19 information here in San Miguel de Allende. No new cases from yesterday. I guess that's pretty good news. We have 63 active cases, 137 confirmed since the start of the pandemic. 65 people have recovered, and the local death toll now stands at 9. And 70 hotels are ready to open their doors tomorrow in San Miguel de Allende. And I'm sure we're going to hear more about that and a lot more with our next guest, our guest speaker today. And to introduce him is our Club Services Chair, Nori Contractor. Nori?
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure not only to be a Rotarian, but to be able to introduce my good friend, Licenciado Francisco Javier Garay, who we lovingly call Paco. He is the Director of Economic Development and International Relations. And for those of us that work with NGOs, most importantly, he is our leader in the NGO world, and he's our liaison. His office is directly responsible for helping us put together the work that is being done by all the major NGOs right now under the umbrella of Corazones Unidos. He has a law degree from Stanford Law School, as well as a degree in public policy and international relations from Princeton. Prior to working for the city of San Miguel de Allende, he was a partner and consultant for international companies based in New York and Washington. But most importantly, I think he's our most reliable and incredible resource here in San Miguel, and we all should be proud to be able to call him our friend. So please help me welcome Paco Garay.
Well, thank you, Nori, for such a warm welcome, and thank you, Skip, for the invitation to present again today. So I think the idea that I have is just to update a little bit on the presentation that I did a few months ago now. April 26th, 27th was the date. So really what I wanted to do was kind of lay out what the situation looks like now here in San Miguel, what some of the actions that we've been taking are at the municipal and also at the state level, and just try to generally fill in some information gaps. I'm also going to be more mindful of my time so that I have time at the end to answer questions. I think those will go on the chat afterwards and try to answer a few of the most important questions. So I'll just kind of start going through the presentation. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is just a global and national overview. I think most of you have this, so I won't spend much time on it. You know, worldwide, we're up to about 12 million cases. I apologize, these slides are gonna be in Spanish. These are provided to me by the health department. They used most up-to-date information that they could, but I thought it was relevant to be showing these slides. So about 12 million cases worldwide. As you can see on the geographical distribution, the Americas is well ahead of a lot of the other continents at this point in terms of confirmed cases. As far as Mexico is concerned, well, yesterday we reported 304,000 confirmed cases with 35,000 deaths related to COVID-19. Just as I was preparing this presentation, I looked back at what the information was when I did the presentation the last time. At that point, just for context, there were 15,500 cases in all of Mexico, and there were 1,500 deaths. So as you can see, there's been in 2.5 months quite an acceleration of both transmission, but unfortunately also of the deaths associated with COVID in Mexico. We can go to the next slide, please. This slide shows two overviews. First, on the left, you have the state overview, 14,000 confirmed cases at the state level now, and 809 confirmed deaths at the state level related to COVID. And then on the right, you have a breakout of the area next to us and San Miguel. So San Miguel, 137 confirmed cases, but then you can see around us, Dolores Hidalgo, 196 cases. I point out Dolores specifically of all the ones on the map because if you actually go back 2 weeks and look at Dolores, they had about 100. They had about 85 cases. They actually were trailing behind San Miguel, and so they accelerated significantly over the past 2 weeks, which is obviously something that we're keeping an eye on as well here in San Miguel, just to ensure that we limit the mobility from Dolores here as they are hitting this acceleration in the number of cases. There, just for reference, on April 27th, 7 cases in San Miguel and 271 at the state level. So next slide, please. This is the San Miguel landscape as we have today. 137 cases, as I said, confirmed, 9 confirmed deaths. On the left, you have persons studied, 418. And then you see 2 numbers. You see a positivity rate on April 20th of 21% and a positivity rate on July 12th of 32%. That positivity rate relates to the testing results. So how many positive tests they're getting per, or how many positive results they're getting per the test that they're applying. So you can see that there's also a slight acceleration in the number of positive tests per total test that they're doing. Here you can see imported cases associated to the importation, and then community cases. You can see most are now community cases. I do want to note that back in the middle of April, San Miguel was the first municipality in the state of Guanajuato to have a community transmission. And when that happened, a lot of people thought, you know, because of the dynamics of San Miguel, the international population, the mobility of people from Mexico City and other places in Mexico coming back and forth. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by a moth. Coming back and forth to San Miguel, that we were going to be in trouble. But I think, as we'll see later on, a lot of the actions that were taken early on by the administration helped contain a lot of the transmittal at this early point, and of course a lot of the actions taken by the community itself. So next slide, please. Here, just a couple interesting facts. The breakdown in San Miguel, women, men is about half and half. And then on the right, you see the age breakdown. The light blue is the suspected cases, so really that adds a little bit of noise just to the slide, but the dark blue is the numbers that you should be looking at. Really, the concentration of cases is pretty evenly spread out from 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. That's where we had the most concentration, and a lot of that is due to the fact that that's really the economically active population. They're the ones who are maybe have not been able to contain themselves in their homes, to quarantine themselves in their homes quite as much. You know, a lot of them have to take public transit back and forth to their places of work. So there, a few weeks ago, this concentrated a little bit more in the 40s and 50s, but now we've seen it even out, and really now it's even across those 4 age groups. Next slide, please. Here's just the outlook projection on San Miguel of tests, of negative tests. So if you go look back in the middle of April, really that's when we were starting the testing here. But really once May came and the state was able to increase the number of tests it was doing on a daily basis, you start seeing a much higher number of negative tests to total tests. So that just means that really we were able to broaden the scope of people that we were testing. As far as the projection, well, you see a slight projection there towards the end of July. The projection, if things kind of hold constant, we'd be somewhere around 210, 215 cases, according to the projections. And there at the bottom, you see the dates on which we've had deaths occur in San Miguel. Each of those bars represents, unfortunately, one of the persons that passed away in the municipality. Next slide, please. Here you see a little bit of the acceleration as is happening everywhere, but here you see it took 34 days for us to get to 10 confirmed cases. Then you get the next 10 in 21 days, the next 10 in 6. And basically the last 20 days, you see 170% increase with respect to the previous period in terms of duplicating or adding additional 10 cases, and then 5 times faster than the first period. So you do see an acceleration of the number of cases occurring in San Miguel. Next slide, please. This is an old map, but I did just want to include it just for references. You know, this is back when we had maybe about 50 cases, but I put it in here just so people are aware. There is a geolocalization process that the health department does do with respect to where they plot around the middle to end of May. So it's old information, but I just wanted to put it in here so that people could see it. You know, I didn't want to put the most up to date, but here you can see that they're doing a job of really tracing where those cases are happening. Next slide, please. And then here, this is just little information I wanted to put in here, just to put context into all of this, especially with numbers. I think we have to be very careful with the way numbers are treated. I think, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, we have 12,000 cases. You can see here on the second column, or third column, the positive 12,000 cases. You can compare it to Querétaro, Mexico City, Puebla, and Jalisco. And then you can take it out to per every 10,000 inhabitants. So there, when you look at it that way, well, Guanajuato starts to be kind of in the middle of the pack. You know, we're still looking good. Jalisco, Querétaro look really good. Mexico City, unfortunately, you know, they have serious complications at the moment. But then you look at the negative cases. That's the, you know, those are the additional tests that are being performed, and you see that Guanajuato is performing about 2 times the number of, or is getting about 2 times the number of negative tests than positive tests. Mexico is a little bit more, but really what you see then is a total number of tests per 1,000 inhabitants, and then you start seeing a different story. Mexico City still has a lot more, but then when you do the comparison with some of the other states, I mean, Guanajuato is doing almost double the number of official tests that Querétaro. And I say official tests because there's a lot of tests that occur at private clinics and hospitals that unfortunately, due to the federal regulations around it, don't get reported up through the system. And then on the last 2 columns, then you have the number of deaths reported. And there, per 100,000 inhabitants, then you also see Guanajuato there now at the lower end of that range. So I think basically the story that I'm trying to tell here is that we have to be careful with numbers. If you just look at positive tests, you're not really sure what they're testing. Low number of positive tests could just be that they're not testing very much. Basically, the commitment that the governor has had here in the state is to know what is going on. He has accelerated the number of tests. León, for instance, actually has 2 drive-through testing facilities, and they are planning on ramping that out to some of the other cities in the state, including Celaya and Irapuato, and then also we're hoping eventually we'll be able to land one here in San Miguel. But they are concentrating on cities such as León and Celaya, which at the moment are having higher levels of incidences of COVID. But basically, I just wanted this story. I just picked some random states. I'm sure I didn't go through all states, but I just picked some that were more similar to the state in terms of industrial focus, geographic location, etc. So as far as the measures taken, this slide a little bit repeats some of the information I presented last April, but I just felt it was important to go over it again. As far as the measures taken by the administration, we've been in close contact with the state, really having meetings with the governor and all the municipalities, depending on the time, but sometimes every other week. Rotary, economic development, etc. There's a number of different task forces that have been created that are informing the municipalities about what is going on and what the actions of the governor are in the city. As far as the city is concerned, as I mentioned, beginning on March 16th, the mayor had declared the cabinet to be in a permanent session, and we've had meetings not only on a weekly basis, but 2-3 times a week to discuss the different developments that we've had on both the health and the economic side of the pandemic. Health sector meetings as well. We meet frequently with representatives of health jurisdiction, the CAICES, the general hospital, and also the private sector hospitals. And then we also have private sector meetings with the different representatives of the different sectors of the economy. So here we're talking about hotels, restaurants, bars, spas, the Small Business Association, tour operators, event planners, etc. So really, what we felt is important, and you'll see this in the next slide, please, is to make sure we have the buy-in and the commitment and also the support of each of the different segments, because they have been directly segments. That's as far as the lockdown measures that were taken. March 14th through 19th was really when most of those lockdown measures that the federal government had laid out, and in some measures also what the state government did. But between March 14th and 19th was basically when we closed down the city, canceled classes, cancellation of events. Then here is where I said that the buy-in is really important. The stricter measures that were taken with the economic sectors, including the complete closure of bars and gyms, etc., and the public markets, were taken in collaboration with the representatives of those sectors. And then during that time, we've also done the announcement of new hygiene measures for public transportation, convenience stores, banks, and as you may recall, and at least at the state level, they still talk about when the banks here and also a couple banks here and also one of the supermarkets were closed down by Protección Civil for not following the health and hygiene measures that were being put out. So, next slide, please. On April 22nd, the administration announced, and so this was right before my last presentation, announced the Aquí Estamos program that was basically aimed at alleviating some of the impact of COVID-19. Funding was aimed at the 3 main sectors that were impacted, which is the health, and was focused on making investment in also stocking up on some of basic medications, oxygen equipment, beds, etc., for those 2 facilities. And also there was an extraordinary support for the Red Cross included in that. For a number of reasons, not only are the Red Cross, was it determined in coordination with the other providers that they would be if there was a call for a possible COVID case, they in that first instance. So it was important to make sure that they were equipped to be able to do that. But also because of the timing of COVID, they weren't able to do their annual fundraising this year. So that represented a big hit to them as well. So as a result of that, the administration decided to step in with some additional critical funding. And then, other things that have been funeral homes, etc., on managing this. As far as the economy is concerned, there were a number of different programs. The biggest, sorry, are people hearing me? I'm getting a message.
Every once in a while, Paco, your voice gets garbled.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a message saying that my speaker is not working.
Paco, I think it's just that you have, intermittent connectivity problems, but go ahead. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry about that. The economy, as far as the economy is concerned, the program was aimed at a number of things. One, it was a temporary work program. What was rolled out, it benefited 600 San Miguelenses on an ongoing basis starting May, June, and carrying over a little bit into July. Then there were also extraordinary funds for small and micro businesses, just to be able to deal with some of the immediate costs of services, electricity, water, etc. And also if they had any payments that were owed. And then we had some additional specific programs for certain areas that were hit extremely hard by the shutdown of the economy. So for the musicians, tour guides, taxis, and also for some of the vendors in the public markets. And then the final one is the social impact aspect. So we provided a number of extraordinary grants to NGOs. There was a municipality-run food basket program and also fresh produce program, which was done in collaboration with a lot of the agro-industry vendors that we have, or agro-industry farms that we have in the area. And then we have also been committed to continuing support of citizen efforts such as Amigos al Cien and independent colonia efforts such as the Guadalupes, just to name a few. So next, please. As far as additional measures, May 1st, face masks were mandated as obligatory in public spaces. May 21st to 31st, we tightened a lot of the enforcement measures for the Sana Distancia campaign. So that was right before the federal government was going to reopen the economy. You would have seen Protección Civil around really trying to clamp down for that period to try to reduce the spread of cases during right before the reopening of some of the economy. And then the city has also taken additional measures on a rolling basis as different risks have been identified either by the health sector, public safety, members of administration, and even community at large have given comments that have been taken under consideration. Really, as the posture in front of this is that no one's had to deal with this before, so we're open to comments and suggestions, and see if we can implement them. Right? I think really everyone's trying to learn, and everyone's trying to do the best job possible, balancing the difficulty that is the health and economic sector. So really, we've been open to comments and suggestions. So we did the implementation of a sanitization brigade, which you might have seen going around different areas, cleaning plazas, markets, bus stops, etc. I know some people have commented, well, how useful is that activity? I think in buses and markets, it's very useful. I think some of the more open areas, the idea maybe was not so much the actual disinfecting part of it, but more the reminding people that we're in the middle of a pandemic and that they should still be vigilant, right? So it has a double purpose part, disinfection, and second is also just reminding people. There's also an implementation of a Sana Distancia Brigade, Safe Distance Brigade, which were inspectors whose jobs, the bars were closed, etc. So they were then set to start following up on making sure the people at the banks are keeping their distance, supermarkets going around to where the bus stops are and talking to people and kind of reminding them about the pandemic. And then we also have the implementation of filters on the road to Querétaro and the road to Celaya primarily. Next slide. Here's just a reminder. This I presented last time, but really for folks who might be new this time, or just as a reminder, just the impact of what shutting down tourism to San Miguel really means. If you take a look, agriculture is about 10%, so those are the agro industry that I was talking about. But really in the service and trade, most of that moves based on tourism or mobility from other municipalities in the state. So really, if we're just breaking it down to tourism, I'd say probably about 60% of our economy is still dependent. Manufacturing is probably increased now. It's a little bit undercounted as far as this economic data is concerned. This is from the INEGI of 2015, but it probably represents closer to 15 to 18% of our economy now, and it's something that we're continuing to look to build. But obviously, it's a slow process getting the new industries online. And so really tourism continues to be the main source of the San Miguel economy. Next slide. So here's just this is a projection of the impact of what COVID meant for three main sectors to May 31st. Hotels affected about 184, employees affected about 3,600, and the economic loss was about 332 million pesos. Restaurants, 175 restaurants that we've counted with about 2,600 employees, and an economic loss about 33 million pesos. And weddings, about 150 weddings during that period were canceled, and the economic loss was projected about 271 million pesos. And this doesn't include kind of the indirect benefits that all of these areas bring, especially the weddings. So it doesn't include, you know, the loss in adventure tourism, artisans, art galleries, etc. And so total projected losses to May 31st, just from those three segments, was about 630 million pesos. Next slide. And as I said, you know, the impact really has been across all sectors. So artisans, clothes, shoes, manufacturing. Oh, sorry, go back one. Yep, thanks. Professional services, dentists, architects, lawyers, carpenters, you know, volume businesses such as gas stations, and then businesses with U.S. denominated inputs. So San Miguel, the municipality, has the most important milk producing group in the Bajío region. And so they've been impacted particularly due to the increase in U.S. price in the exchange rate, and the U.S. prices of things such as medicines and a lot of the machinery, as well as certain food supplies for the cattle. So, next slide. Reactivating the economy. So how have we approached this, and what are we thinking about? We decided very early on that it had to be done in a coordinated, phased approach. We had to do a step approach to being able to really reactivate the economy. The reality is that we have to take into consideration both the economic and the health considerations. It's a balance that we need to do in this decision-making process. It's a difficult balance to do, but it's one that is extremely important. You know, one of the things, and it's a reality in Mexico, is that we don't have the social benefit networks that the U.S., Canada, European countries have as far as unemployment is concerned. There's no special stimulus checks. So really, some artisans, for example, on the Andador Lucas Valdera, when they shut down the middle of March, and basically didn't sell or have any income until even to today, really, because the tourism really hasn't come back. So you know, the impact on these economic sectors has been tremendous, and that is one of the reasons why I was saying earlier that ensuring collaboration and ensuring input and working together with these segments has been very important, as you may have seen in other cities in the state, but also in other states. The musicians went and were protesting, or the public market representatives went and were protesting. We really haven't had that here in San Miguel. And, I think the mayor is the first to recognize this commitment and solidarity of these different economic sectors to the well-being and the health of the city as a whole. But how long can we keep them without any income is one of the driving factors that we have to consider. At this point, we're about 120 days out from when we began the lockdown. So a lot of people have not had any income in those 120 days. And we discussing with the health department and obviously decisions for reopening the municipality are also taken in conjunction with state direction. What we've determined is the health risk is not opening the economy itself, but the risk really is not doing it correctly, right? What we know for sure is that what will be very painful is if we open the economy and need to shut it down again. That would be a devastating blow to a lot of the different economic sectors of the city. A lot of the questions that are not clear, when will there be a vaccine? Will there be a second wave in the winter, which will force, clamping down? What will happen to the economy then? So these are all questions that we are considering and, grappling with on a daily basis, really making this balance between the health considerations and the economy and trying to find the balance. Unfortunately, and if anyone were to give a specific date on when things could reopen, the mayor always says that's at best irresponsible, because the truth is, unfortunately, we don't know when the situation will be improving. But what we will continue to do is try to work on the scaled approach. And what we do know is that it needs to be a closely supervised process. So, next slide, please. The reactivation plan, going back, was a consisted of 4 phases when we laid it out at the beginning. Phase 1, and it varies a little bit from the official one, which is published, because they actually start on phase 0 and then have 3 phases, but I made it easier here. So phase 1 really was the reopening of most of the small economic businesses, restaurants, some of these were already included in the essential businesses, so pharmacies and food stores, et cetera, were already essential businesses. But really, it was reactivating a lot of the small mom and pop shops in the city. And although it does say the markets were only opened at 30% and were restricted to sellers from San Miguel. So one of the things that we've been keeping a close eye on is the mobility, and we've been trying to restrict mobility as much as possible to try to contain the virus. Phase 2 was hotels, public parks, cinemas, libraries, cultural centers, etc. Phase 3, gyms, public recreational courts in neighborhoods and communities. And phase 4 is a lot of these things that studies have shown are some of the most high risk for contagion or transmittal. So bars, nightclubs, dances. And then here we also have the rental of properties on short-term properties on platforms, spas, massages, etc. So next slide. So phase 1 began on June 1st. As I said, businesses that were included were kind of a lot of the smaller mom and pop shops, and then a lot of the higher risk businesses in that group, such as restaurants, beauty salons, public markets, etc., were requiring the certification of Primero La Salud. The certification, what does it consist of? Basically, you have to register your business online. You can go to the San Miguel website. You can take the business owner and the employees have to take 2 courses offered by the Social Security Institute on what is COVID and the safe return to work course. Then you have to sign a letter of commitment to uphold the applicable COVID regulations. And finally, there's an in-person 18-point inspection by Protección Civil. Those 18 points really roll up what is 25 points at the state level and what is close to 60 points at the federal level. But really, basically, it's hygiene, different hygiene regulations that are included from the different perspectives. And this 18-point checklist basically ensures 99% of the federal regulations are being abided by as well. So it does, Protección Civil goes to the business and does an inspection. Obviously, the protocols vary depending on the focus of the business. Restaurants, hotels, spa, well, spas can't open yet, but hair salons, for instance, have a much higher number of kind of points that get checked versus, the flower shop at the corner where the interaction is limited. No? Next. So as far as hotels, and that's the question that I get a lot, hotels are permitted to open at 40% starting July 15th. I do want to note that hotels at the state level were permitted to open at 30% starting June 1st. San Miguel actually maintained them closed for an additional 45 days. So that obviously had to be done again in collaboration with the economic segment, right? There was a lot of pressure, especially from that segment, saying, well, they're opening up in León, they're opening up in Guanajuato. Why can't we open up here in San Miguel? Even Querétaro opened up in the middle of June, and then they see news from Cancun and Los Cabos, and everyone's opening up. Why can't we open up? That's the question. But so it was determined in collaboration with them that we do a phased opening, 40%. Why 40%? Well, unlike Silao or León, where the hotels tend to be really big, here we have smaller hotels. So if you said 30% for a 6-room hotel, it was going to be very, very difficult for them to really operate. So we did a 40% number to give them a little bit more space in their operations to actually make it worthwhile opening. Platforms such as Booking, Hotels.com, Airbnb, VRBO have agreed to the city's request to remain closed through July 15th. So you may have seen this if you tried to go on. There was a little period where there were some issues with the platforms and they reopened, but they've been locked down for the last three weeks, almost 4 weeks, and you weren't able to actually make any reservations through those platforms. Obviously, there's always ways around things. So if you came before and you rented from someone, people write messages and privately and rented out places that way. But really, the city worked with these platforms to negotiate that shutdown. And we're still in ongoing negotiations to maintain the blockade of those platforms for short-term rentals. One thing that they note is that we are the only municipality in all of Mexico that has maintained this blockade past June 1st. And at this point, Mexico City did institute it briefly in June as well. But at this point, we're the only municipality that still has it outstanding or that is even discussing continuing to keep it. And really what we think is the success of reopening depends on people adhering to the policies of the safety measures, both at their workplace and generally. Next. Face masks. Face masks is a big question. I get a lot of questions regarding it. Really, and the mayor has said this and the administration believes this, until there's a vaccine, really they're the only proven method in addition to hand washing for really reducing the rate of transmittal of COVID-19. So we are going to continue to mandate them. They've been mandated here since May 1st, and Guanajuato made them mandatory July 10th. And so now the question, enforcement. Enforcement is difficult, really, as far as is concerned in terms of, fining or arrests, etc. What we're looking to do is a number of different campaigns, some campaigns aimed at the tourists that we're expecting to start receiving as of this weekend, really. But we know that those numbers are not going to be, hotels are not going to reach 40% overnight. Cancun, Los Cabos, Querétaro, Guanajuato, León. They're all examples. We expect somewhere maybe around 10, 15%. Some of the smaller hotels, because of the size, maybe they'll say 25%. But we think really what we want to continue working on is having conscious campaigns here in San Miguel aimed at the locals, making sure that people adopt the habit of wearing face masks, especially as they start going back to work. It's going to be very important that if you're going back to work, and we've talked with a lot of the business owners about this, is to encourage people not only to have, the hygiene regulations when they're at their place of business, but also to be doing it all the time when they're coming into their place of work, when they're going home, when they're home for the weekend, etc. So really, it's a campaign of just making consciousness around this. We're going to do checkpoints in the streets for use. You may have seen some of the sanitization arches that went up around the center. Those were taken down and it was being rethought. But they, again, they serve two purposes. One, the purpose of sanitization, whether, I know there's science on that, goes back and forth. But the other thing is that they're a great point for someone to be standing there and say, excuse me, in order to access the Colonial Center or San Miguel, you have to be wearing a face mask, right? So that they serve that dual purpose. Taxis, for instance, at this very moment, actually in a different event, are being provided with acrylic dividers for their units. So kind of, if you want to think about it New York style, where there's going to be the acrylic division between the driver in the front and the passengers in the back, as well as some sanitization products that they'll be able to use. And then we're going to be using not only, for instance, the mounted police in the center that you see usually dressed up as figures from the independents, but also we'll be using university student brigades to help encourage people to wear face masks while they're in San Miguel. And also these brigades will be going to the markets and to the bus stops, etc., to try to continue promoting the use of face masks. Next slide, please. So what's next? Ongoing talks with the affected sectors, event planners, gyms, bars. I think one of the things that is very difficult about the pandemic is that giving people a date is impossible, right? You can't say on this date things are going to go back to normal and you'll be able to have your events again. And that is what, I think people have now started to assimilate it, but especially when it was April and May, it was very difficult. People, when they shut down in March, thought that they'd be opening no later than the beginning of May, right? So now that you're 4 months into it and you haven't had any income, people start getting desperate and really want a clear answer. And unfortunately, it's answers that are impossible to give. But so what we try to do is we're trying to work with the different sectors to see what is possible. So, all right, event planner, you're not going to be able to go back to do a 600-person wedding anytime soon. But let's start discussing what the alternatives are. Can we do a 40-person event or a 30-person event, with certain guidelines and certain restrictions, et cetera? And when is a time when we could start doing that? Gyms, I know maybe you guys have seen them as well, but pictures of the gyms where, they now have the full plastic cover around you, et cetera. So changes have to be made, and it's a process of talking with the different people involved to adopt those changes. We're going to continue reinforcing health and hygiene measures that have already been approved and implemented in the businesses that were allowed to open. So once you got your certificate, we're still in the process of certifying businesses. At this point, we've certified over approximately 1,500 total businesses, and it's on a continuous rolling basis that we're continuing to certify businesses. But now what we're starting to do is some of the people that we're certifying are getting pulled off of the certification businesses certification process and are being brought back to doing a follow-up inspection to those businesses that opened to make sure that they're still following those guidelines. And we're still going to continue developing a strategy for San Miguel tourism. Tourism is still a linchpin to the economy, but we have to do it under a new reality. at first, we even thought, well, maybe in August we'll be able to start announcing some types of events. Maybe we can do some of the wine tastings or some of the events of that nature. We've also slowly been hit with the new reality that things are going to be different. So now we're starting to think outside the box. What kind of tourism will we be able to have? What is that going to look like? October, November. What's going to happen? Is there going to be a second wave in January, February that we need to consider, et cetera? So there are steps being taken, but really it's kind of trying to think outside the box, come up with new ideas for what the economy of San Miguel is going to look like going into 2021, because we think we're going to be dealing with this until that vaccine or a proven effective method of treatment is available. But even then, we recognize, I know Remdesivir, the antiviral that has shown a lot of promise. The United States just bought all product manufactured through September for that. So it's going to be difficult for, some of the other countries to really, when the vaccine comes out or when that treatment comes out, to make the play and be able to start applying it here. Although the governor did announce that he's dedicating 1 billion pesos to the purchase of the vaccine when it does become available, regardless of what the federal government does. So they're going to start talking with different vaccine manufacturers and see what the state can do once that vaccine becomes available. And then really continue to stress personal responsibility as being the only way that's going to work. And it's for two reasons, really. It's for your health and to be able to continue having this economic openness and this economic injection. Here's a thank you. That's it. And that's the end of my presentation. I do want to have a few minutes for questions. So the next slide is just a funny one that I like, that the health sector uses. So
thank you very much, Paco. What a great presentation. And we have a lot of people that have asked questions. We're asking that if you do have questions, type them into the chat area, because we have too many people. We have 100 people on the Zoom conference right now. Way too many to open up all the microphones. Paco, are you okay on time?
Yes.
Very good. We have a question here. How will the mask requirements be effectively enforced?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I think when it first rolled out May 1st, it took a little while, and then people started to adhere to it. So especially during May 15th to May 30th, we really saw a high number of people adhering to it. We also had a lower number of people out on the streets. With the reopening on June 1st, the masks, people adhering to the mask requirements started to vary. So you see some people who adamantly adhere to it and wear it, especially, and we've been glad to see this, the older population of San Miguel has generally been adhering to this. So you do see that. Where we're having more of the problem is kind of in the younger 20s, 30s, working aged, and also both male and female, but particularly male. And so we have identified that, and we do know where those points that we need to stress are, and we'll be working on different campaigns to do that. So you'll see people rolling out to the bus stations, you'll see people rolling out to the center, trying to ask people, or asking people to adhere to the mask regulation. As far as whether it's going to be fines or whether it's going to be arrests, it is on the books that you can fine, and that in extreme cases you can arrest people, but that's going to be that's not going to be the norm really in the application. It's really going to be more campaigns to make people conscious of the requirement and the benefit of wearing them.
Past President Fred Collins has a question. The single most important question from the SMA Pickleball Club is, when will the Unidad Deportiva be opened?
That's actually a great question. Actually, one we've been actively discussing. There's different, and it's actually being taken up at the state level. There's obviously the benefits of doing exercise, especially when you don't have to be in close proximity. So non-contact sports, such as pickleball. Well, sometimes it's a contact sport, but so the difficulty becomes, well, can we open up the pickleball court and not have groups then use it to play soccer, right? We'd have to prevent people from still playing basketball, even though if you'd want people to use the running track, etc. So we're trying to work through these little nuances of how we can open up those sports that are non-contact sports without then having the influx of, well, the soccer wants to start up, the basketball wants to start up. Still for Protección Civil, every weekend they're called out to soccer games, basketball games, and also horse races. So a few weeks ago, the director of Protección Civil went out to a municipality. There's no cell phone communication. He went out there with 3 people to break up a horse race of over 500 people. So they we're trying to do it in an intelligent manner. There's some things that we need to work through. We recognize the value of doing exercise, and we do want to start getting that active again. And so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see some movement there.
Now, for some of you folks that are already thinking about jumping off the Zoom conference, please hang in there because we have something important we want to tell you in just a few minutes. Paco, we have a question from Susan. She wants to know if the filters on the incoming roads from Celaya and Querétaro will terminate tomorrow, or will they continue to be in operation?
No, they will absolutely continue to be in operation. There's still going to be requirements for getting into San Miguel. So whether the platforms agree to continue restricting short-term rentals, for instance, a reservation from a short-term rental will not get you into San Miguel. You will still be turned back because it's still not allowed. We're still going to be doing checks. And, similar to how the sanitization in the streets has a double benefit of, sanitizing and also reminding people that there's a pandemic going on, this is also serves as a check, but also reminding people. And one of the things, and also this has been not only raised by the administration, by people in the administration, but also from the community, make the filters a little bit more beneficial. So we're going to start giving out information at the filters regarding the obligations of people coming into the city, including the wearing of masks. So those, you can expect those to stay in place.
Paco, do you have any estimate as to the percentage of people with COVID-19? Are they Mexicanos or are they gringos? Do you know if there are any expats that have come down with the virus?
Yeah, I don't have the exact breakdown, to be honest. I know that there have been a couple, but the majority of cases have been amongst the Mexican population of San Miguel, but I don't really have, the detailed breakdown there.
What specific plans does the tourist board have for reminding hotel guests to wear masks outside?
Yeah, so the tourism board's going to have an ongoing campaign. You're going to see, they have maps throughout the center. Those maps are going to start having COVID-related information, including the wearing of face masks, as I mentioned. Those filters for the center of the city are going to go back up, and they're going to be, checkpoints for you to wear your mask. And what we're also asking is hotels and restaurants to help say, not only do you need to wear the mask when you come into my establishment, but you also have to wear it when you go out. And that's what's important, because you see it a lot is people, have the mask around their neck or on their elbow. And so, people say, well, can you wear your mask? Oh, I have it. Not doing much good on your elbow, but there will be an effort to remind anyone visiting the city that masks are obligatory.
Question from Gary: is it safe to drive to Costco?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking? If we're talking Querétaro Costco, I have no issue. I was there
How about Celaya?
this weekend. Celaya, I mean, Celaya, the reports continue to be that there are continue to be a lot of crime incidences. There was an incident at a verification center just last weekend. So if you can avoid Celaya, I would, use the one in Querétaro for now. I think it's there.
Probably a very difficult question for you to answer, but when do you think that tourism will start to resume on a regular basis? I know that there are some tourists that are somehow getting into town right now, but when do you think regular tourism will resume with the tours and the cultural centers open?
Yeah. So I think it's, as I said, I think there it's going to be a phased approach. You're going to have people, tourism is going to resume this weekend. I mean, some of the hotels are reporting, 10, 15% occupancy. Some are reporting no occupancy. Some of the bigger hotels are reporting, 2% occupancy through the rest of July. So it's going to be a slow process. We are working with the guides for adventure tourism, so horseback riding and things like that, which are lower risk. Because what we also want to do is encourage people not to congregate in the center, but go out and explore the Presa Allende, go out on a motorcycle ride, etc. So spread out, go other places, try to avoid a conglomeration around the Jardín, etc. But as far as when it's going to return to normal, I think it's going to be a slow process. I don't think it's going to return to normal anytime soon. But as I guess to use the coined phrase now, I mean, it will be the new normal starting kind of this weekend. And, we don't know what's going to happen with schools yet. Are they going to start on August 10th as is projected or not? I think that's going to be a big variable. What's going to happen there, et cetera. But we do expect, some tourists to start arriving as soon as this weekend.
All right. Paco, I can't thank you enough. It's always wonderful to hear what you have to say. Obviously, what's going on in this community is incredibly important to all of us here. And for many of us that are not here, want to be able to return as soon as possible. So once again, thank you very much for joining us today on this Rotary Zoom meeting.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And again, apologies for not getting to all the questions, but feel free to reach out to me and I can answer the questions offline for anyone who would like.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Paco. Now, before you hit the leave button, Tom Schneider is here. And Tom, you got an idea.
Hi, I got unmuted. Thanks everybody for coming, and everybody knows what great programs Rotary has: food support, the Red Cross, cisterns, dry toilets, and we bring you a fabulous speaker today. But with Zoom, we're not getting the 50 and 100 peso contributions that we do throughout. We have, and they really support our programs. We need them. When you hit the leave button, you're going to be back to the email that you came here on. Hit there is our website is right there. Click on that. Go over, take a look around, hit the donate button. Every 50 pesos counts. So thanks very much for supporting Rotary.
All right, Tom, thank you very much, too. We have a very interesting guest next week. Ivar, are you there? Are you still with us, Ivar? Can you unmute and tell us a little bit about next week's guest? Maybe Ivar's not there.
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
Next week's speaker is coming from the state of Guanajuato, and the state is actually responsible for rebuilding of Pipila. Pipila is a place we all hate to pass, at least at the moment. It's very difficult. And I managed to get the deputy director to come next week to explain about the project, what they're achieving, and some of the diversion of the traffic and so forth and so on. It should be something that interests many people in San Miguel de Allende.
Ivar, thank you very much for making that all possible. That's going to be a
Before-
great presentation. So make sure that you come on board next Tuesday. We'll get things going at about 9:30. If there's nothing else,
Skip, one item, we're getting requests. Paco said to reach out to him via email if you had questions. People are asking what is his email address. So let me unmute Paco. Maybe we can type it in chat so people can have it
there he is.
I'll type it in the chat.
quickly before everybody dumps.
Before they're all gone. All right. I think that is just about it. I know that there are a few people in our club that are going to meet separately after this. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.